grab an agenda.
How's everything going?
Brandon.
Busy?
Are a couple of areas that I
Brandon. Ooh.
You guys can sit whenever. Sorry.
Get that out of the way.
Is it coming together?
It is. Fantastic. People are different.
Do we have any agendas printed out?
No, I sent it electronically.
You probably need yours.
You can let my boss.
Very good, thank you.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, we were looking the other day. I have one check coming tomorrow. When I get that, will be about 33,000.
Congratulations.
It's gonna be
That's
awesome.
amazing.
Exactly.
It
that's why I
just
like to
turned
print it
on.
out. I need it for my eyes.
I'm just here to present.
When did we get the lights?
When is it?
For next Friday.
Next Friday.
18th.
Okay. Oh, we're live today?
That's what the rainbow colors.
Wow. Tell me those lights are new. Like,
Are we all good?
They've never been that color.
okay.
So
That's a lot.
yes.
Okay. I want to welcome everybody out to Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Appreciate everybody being here. I would like to ask Commissioner Dayton to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Repeat the Pledge of Allegiance after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our first order of business is to go to approval of the minutes from last month's meeting. Has anybody had a chance to review those? And if so, I'd accept a motion on that.
It was a small group of us. I move to approve the meeting minutes from the June 4th meeting.
I second that.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Then our next order of business is a zone change and preliminary plat. The first one is the Maple Mountain Plat N zone change.
Thank you. And just by way of information, we did hold a public hearing last month. These two items were continued.
Microphone dead.
Testing. Thank you. So these items were continued from last month. At last month's meeting, we did hold a public hearing. So Chair, it would be at your discretion if you want to invite any public comment, but we have met that requirement. Just a quick update for those that were not here. This is largely a reapproval of a project that happened in 2018. Since that time, those approvals have expired, and our code has been updated to where the master plan development does require an overlay via a zone change. And so the applicant is back. Would like to finish off the project Maple Mountain Plat N. So we have both the zone change and the accompanying preliminary plat. If you've had a chance to look through the staff report, we do have we have 33 single-family residential lots being proposed. So the overall development density is 2.44 units per acre. which is under the maximum allowed in the R112 zone, which is the base zoning for this project. The reason the MPD overlay is needed is a few of the lots, half of the lots are under the 12,000, the other half are over, and then a few that vary as far as the standard widths and depths. And we've got the data as far as the lot breakdown there in the staff report. The DRC did look at it and does recommend approval of both the zone change and the preliminary plat.
Mr. Chair, may I also, I need to disclose that I am part of the Board of Education that owns the lot that is next door to this, but there's no impact to the school district doesn't have any party to this property. Any interest in this property, that's the right word.
Sorry.
And last month, we discussed having the applicant here. Is the applicant here? Oh, excellent.
We do have the applicant here if you have questions for him. This on the slide is shown the layout, and so you can see it is connecting to existing street network and dead ends, and then we'll complete connections both up to 400 North, 120 North, and then to the east with 320 North in the recently approved and developed Meller subdivision. If you've had a chance to drive by there, you can see the new streets that have been installed. Let's go to the next slide. This is indicative of the improvements that would be done to 400 North, and then the street tree plan within the subdivision is on the next slide as well. And let's go to the next slide. And then we do have motions in the slides as well as in your staff report. Any questions for staff before we invite the applicant up?
Before we hear from the applicant, this was tabled or continued last meeting. What were the issues that led to that?
Last meeting was unique in the sense that we had 3 planning commissioners present, and so any motions would need to have been unanimous to move forward. In the minutes, if you had a chance to read through them, I think, and I'll let Commissioner Shauna Warnick correct me if I'm misremembering, but I think the concern was with the 4 lots that are 8,800 square feet there on the south side of 320 North, and whether that was intentional or whether it was unintentional. We speculated that it was probably a matter of getting closer to the maximum density that's allowed per the code, and using the variation that's permitted in the MPD overlay to have a variety of lot sizes. But we can let the applicant as well as our commission member speak to those items if I misremember it.
That's why I wanted to bring those up so we'd all be aware and make sure that's handled when the applicant, or addressed when the applicant speaks to us. Is there anything else that we should do?
I'll give my comments whenever you want.
Well, I think we ought to give them so the applicant can be prepared to address them.
Great. Will you put the plat map up on here, and I'll tell you what my concerns are. That this is an area of the community that is zoned for 12,000 square foot lots, and more than half are less than that. I understand with the overlay, that the letter of the law there is that the average needs to be 12,000 square feet, but the spirit of it is that in your development, have as many as you can be 12,000 square feet. That's what the zone is in the area. And so more than just this area, but I think right along here and along these ones, and right along is that 130 North? I think that you can make these closer to 12,000 square feet and fit with the zoning of the area. So that's why I would have voted against it and why we continued it.
So your concern could be maybe addressed by eliminating 1 or 2 of those lots and increasing the size of the others.
Correct. Yeah.
Is it that? I'm looking at the existing lots. It looks like they're in the same situation.
same size lots in the older plat, the existing one. So it's not that big of a change. It just,
Jason, how is this consistent
matches up
with
with-
the
You're saying-
past phases?
yes, it matches up with what was done in the past.
You're saying these ones right here, that
No.
they,
To your left a little bit more,
Like,
the existing ones.
looking at those lots
right,
and the ones down further, they are the same size. Keep scrolling up, right there at the bottom, like you got those three. They actually look like I don't see the square footages on these, but these look like they might be slightly bigger.
so you're saying it flows with what, it flows and
It
matches
flows with
what's
what's
already
there,
gone?
what's been approved.
Right, right. I still have my opinion about it, but
Sure.
No,
I can see what you're saying, though.
Should we hear from the applicant? Thanks, Brandon.
I'm Sean Herring. A couple things to add to it. If you remember, and if you guys were here years ago when this first got approved, the Nebo School property went from 130 north to 400 north. And so we did a land swap with them so that they could utilize this property. It didn't meet their distances, some other stuff going on there. So it's configured. It's an odd shape because we have swapped some land around with Nebo so they could use that bigger property, that more square-ish property. So that's kind of one of the main reasons. And then we're also tying into the development to the east. I don't know the name, the Miller property, but so our road has kind of squished down. You see that 320 north has had to tie into that because there is a little bit of flexibility in that road. But we're tying into what's approved there on the Miller, and we had the Nebo swap, and then the angle of the irrigation ditch. There's a lot working against us, which is kind of why it's configured this way, and those lot sizes are what they are.
I see the pointer, Dave. I can't read it, blame it on old eyes, but what are the size of these lots here?
8,800 square feet.
So all four of those are about 8,800 square feet.
And those are our smallest lots here.
And lot 27, which is kind of standalone, it's just all by itself. There's not much you can do with that one.
9,300,
Mm-hmm.
almost 94.
What are we looking at 38, 39, and 40?
11.7.
They're really close. They're almost 1,200.
They are close.
So half are under, and of the half that are under, majority of those are within 750 square feet of that 12,000, and then you just have a few outliers.
Mhm. It seems, I see Shauna's point though. It seems like if those four lots became three lots, would they'd all be 1050, 10.5
Yeah,
or
they'd
something
be
like that?
closer. Yeah, I would be, but.
And we could, I mean, those 38 through 40 could be 12,000 with just shifting that common line between 37 and 38, if that helps. I don't think it changes really the way it
We're
looks
talking
and
about,
lays
I
out.
think the concern is these.
Yeah.
I don't have any concern with these. I don't assume you do
No,
either.
yeah.
No.
I think but like going down to 8,800 when it could be shifted around and they could be closer to the 12,000, I'd be fine
Right.
with that. What are the ones that are down by if you scroll down there, how much are those that are along 130 north? What are those square foot?
They're all
10,000.
And 12.
12, 10,000.
I can see how they match the neighbors that are along the road there. So I guess my biggest concern is the ones that are 8,800 that you can take a lot out and reconfigure those.
So I guess, does the applicant have any concern with doing that, or do you do not want to
Yeah,
go
it's
along
going to
those
be
suggestions?
tough. It's an expensive build, which is why it's been held off for so many years. Losing a lot would be tough. I know it seems small, but that one lot That irrigation canal just cost us $600,000 to put in, and that one lot is borderline make or break. It'd be really tough to lose it.
But you've purchased land in an area that is the zoning requirement.
Right. Well, was not the zoning requirement, but now we're obviously into the new zone requirement. Yeah, I mean, I think it was much different until NEBO approached us to make that NEBO swap. That's a big thing because it was unusable before. So hoping that's kind of our bargaining chip there for that extra lot. It's an expensive build. We've made it work for NEBO. It would be tough. It'd be tough to lose one.
Okay.
With the 8,800 square feet lot size, what kind of size of house are we talking here? Does that change what's going to be material across the street?
It's going to be the same along that line.
Just smaller lot then?
Just smaller lot, yeah.
Same garage and parking setup and everything
Exactly.
like that. And what are we looking at here? Like a 3-car garage?
3-car garage, 2s to 3s. I think the majority of them are going to be 3s. So it's going to be very similar to everything else along 320 North.
Have you built these out? You built out?
Yeah,
those?
we did the phase 1 with Salisbury. This is going to be building these, Troy Riding, but similar, if not the exact same product.
Okay. Any other commissioners have any comments? My comments on it are, I mean, I would like it if there's closer to the 12,000 square feet. With the only lots I really have a concern with would be those 4 right there, from what I've looking through it. And I think it works. There'll still be nice homes that'll go on there. The community is not going to be, in my opinion, isn't going to be that impacted to where it's going to be like they're undesirable lots. They'll still be desirable lots. I would prefer it when the developers would be closer to our standard and then further away on these when it could be a change. But I don't have a huge concern going ahead with it. I understand and respect Shauna's thoughts on that, but for me, I would agree with the staff's findings that it works.
Yeah, I was present last month when we reviewed this, and I'm supportive as it's presented.
Yeah, I also was present, and I think I have a hard. I get the spirit in the letter. I have a hard time if we reduce, the number of lots actually, because I think the thing that we run into is if these are functionally the same houses as what we're looking at elsewhere. Well, if we're talking about one less house, then I think even one less house here where there's a market for it is a difficult thing for me to push for. That said, I realize we have standards for a reason. That said, I see that staff has looked at this, reviewed this, and they're okay with this. I really don't have any concerns here, and I kind of like what this is looking like right now.
Anybody else have anything to say? I'm kind of anxious for this, so it's going to be fun. I would entertain a motion one way or another of how you guys are feeling.
I move to approve the Maple Mountain plat zone change from R112 to R112 with a master planned development overlay,
I'll
Great.
second.
According to staff's findings and conditions.
according to staff's findings and conditions.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. I'd like to do a roll call of that, if we could, just so we get clear who's voting which way.
Yay.
Yay. Yes.
Yay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Very good.
Piece of cake.
We have to do the map though next, right?
We have to do, yes, that is the next thing. So the next is associated with this, the Maple Mountain Plat and Phase 2, which is the, oh, yeah. Do you want to say anything about that, or is it all wrapped up in the same thing? Okay. Motion?
I'll go ahead and do a motion that we proposed. I moved to propose the Maple Mountain Spanish Fork subdivision plat and phase preliminary plat be approved based on the following, or based on the findings from staff.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
So we have 5 for it, 1 against.
And it's only kind of a, it's an
only
against
kind of
out
a
of principle.
That is
yeah.
okay. You don't need to justify your feelings.
That's okay.
They were good comments.
It's good to give.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. The next item of business is the zone change. It's a public hearing. This is for Walmart development enhancement.
Is there a laser pointer over here? Are you sure? Can I? Really?
Yeah, haul it out. I feel like I'm giving away my
Just
remote.
return
but
it.
It'll be
Bring it
okay.
Okay. So this is related to the big Walmart, not the small mart. So just to clarify, since we have two. So this one's located at 1206 North Canyon Creek Parkway. If you go to the next slide, Zone C2 General Commercial. Next slide has a commercial general plan land use designation. Next slide. So this is what the applicant is proposing. They are requesting a zone change to add the development enhancement overlay to the C2 zone in order to add an online pickup order expansion to the site. This zone change is needed because the proposed expansion will remove some parking and landscaping on the site, which will make it not in compliance with our code and our minimums. So for some context, the development enhancement overlay is a tool that we use so that way we can kind of help massage some developments that might have a more difficult time meeting the requirements that we have in the city. So that's why they're requesting it here. So this is associated with a site plan that was just recently approved by the DRC to add this online order pickup expansion to the kind of southwest-ish side of Walmart. So it's hard to see. It's right here. Just this little square here. So this is like a 3,500 square foot addition to the side of the building. And along with it, they'll be altering some of the parking that's on that southwest side here, as well as some of the landscaping. So if you go to the next slide, this is the existing conditions. So obviously there's no building there right now. It'll go kind of right in this area. So removing some of this parking here, removing some of the landscaping, and then they'll be adding some landscaping kind of just to the north of where the proposed expansion will be. And fiddling with some of the parking, which I'll explain in a second. If you go to the next slide, this just kind of shows where the pickup area will be. So the idea is that this kind of will all be messed with just a little bit. But once again, the only like structure that will be built will actually just be right in the back there. Next slide. Here's the landscaping differences. So at the moment, there's kind of that landscape island and then cap that comes down here, which will be removed. So instead, you'll kind of have this new landscape area here. Next slide. These are the elevations. It'll look like the Walmart that already exists, so it'll look basically the same. Next slide. So here are the parking counts that we have. There's kind of a lot of random numbers here. Essentially, this is what exists today. The red 9 is the normal parking stalls. The green 13 are the current pickup stalls that exist there. So for a total of 22 stalls on this side, 13 being pickup, 9 being normal. If you go to the next slide, this is the other area of that pickup area that's being adjusted. So this is kind of just to the north of where we were just looking. These 18 stalls that currently exist as normal stalls will become pickup stalls. They'll be removing this cart corral, and then they're also going to be removing this cart corral, but these will all just be normal stalls. So this non-pickup over here, these will all be pickup stalls. So the stalls, all the spaces as they currently exist and as what are proposed. So the reason that it will come, I suppose, out of compliance with the parking is because they're adding space to the building. Our parking is based off the square footage of the building. It's one stall to every 250 square feet of building space. So as the building gets bigger, they would need more parking technically. Also, the ratio of normal stalls to pickup stalls is not 1-to-1 because a pickup stall is slightly larger than a normal stall, so it takes up more space, if that makes sense. I think it's like 9.5 feet is a pickup stall versus 9 feet is a normal stall. So ratios are a little bit off. That's why everything's a little weird. There's kind of just a lot of random numbers. Essentially, though, the point being, the reason they need the zone change, the reason this is in front of you guys, is because they're just under in their ratio of parking. And I went through and counted parking spaces like 5 times, so I can confirm that this is correct. I think one important thing to note, and something that was brought up by the city manager also, is just that even though they might be under-parked here technically, pickup stalls will have a shorter average park time. So, someone in a normal stall will probably be there longer than someone there in a pickup stall. So that's the reason why staff supports it. We think that it shouldn't be too big of a deal, as well as the landscaping. This is also technically for the landscaping because they're under landscaped. So yeah, the development enhancement overlay will kind of help with both of those situations. But the DRC is recommending approval of the proposed zone change based on the findings listed in the staff report. Any questions?
So we're talking, did I read that right? You're 5 less stalls total?
Yes. Yeah, you're right.
Yep.
So 638 would be what would...
What we want, what's required at this point.
Yeah, what's in code. Yep.
And then 633 is what they're going to have when they're done.
Yep, with this proposal.
So they're going to be off like 5.
Yeah, exactly. And you can see they're also just, I guess I can clarify some other things on this. There will be 4 cart corrals removed to try to increase the number of spaces. This is kind of confusingly written because it looks like they're getting rid of 8 spaces, but they're adding parking spaces as they remove corrals, if that makes sense.
I guess currently, I don't know, I don't go up there enough, but is there ever a lack of parking spaces up there?
Only for the pickup, maybe?
Only at the pickup?
I can attest there actually is a lack of parking spaces for the pickup.
Pickup, yep.
I've personally been in that situation.
I have not been there
The
to
applicant could
verify
probably speak
that.
to
So
that. Are they here? Could they address that? Please come up. Could you state your name?
Taylor Smith with Galloway. We're the engineers on this project. There is a lack of pickup with that. And with this addition is to help speed that up so we can get our times down. I think the average time with the stores that have this pickup addition is like 6.5 minutes, something around that. So you're thinking of someone who goes in the store about 30, 40 minutes on average, usually 6.5, get people in and out of there with more stalls should alleviate that concern for not enough pickup stalls. So with that, we are adding pickup stalls, and then having that extra area for them to stage all the orders and everything will really decrease the time cars are there.
And how many total pickup stalls will you have if this is approved?
We will have 39,
39.
from 13 to 39. So huge difference. And and as you can see, as our world is going, it's more about the convenience and it's becoming more and more popular. And so I would assume that most of those stalls, especially like on a Saturday morning, are going to be used.
And the addition to the building is to stage the pickup orders
Yeah.
to bring them out to the cars as they arrive.
Correct. Yeah, they have just the processing in there. So you have your shoppers that go out, bring it all there, start staging it. They start staging it about an hour and a half before you get there. And besides your cold stuff, they'll have cold storage back there too. So for your milk, eggs, so it keeps cold, and it'll all be staged in its crates. It's quite an operation back there, but and now they'll have more area to stage, get people in and out quicker, have more orders to stage, and everything else.
Is there any change to any of the retail space where I, as a customer, would come in and go?
No, as far as the this is in the back. A lot. Like right now, it's kind of a little bit out front where they're coming and going. So this also will help with pedestrian traffic. There's not going to be as many. The shoppers aren't going to be. The Walmart shoppers who bring it out to the car aren't going to have to go through much traffic anymore. They're just going right out that door, right to the side of the store where there's not your everyday traffic coming through. And so kind of differentiate the two. So you got your online orders kind of on the side of the building. Normal pedestrians, normal shoppers will still have the front.
Any other questions?
No, thanks.
Thank you. That was great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other comments by commissioners? Not, I'd love to hear a motion.
Do you have to do a public hearing?
Oh, public hearing. Thank you very much, because it is a public hearing. Is anybody here to address this topic? Seeing none, we'll close public hearing. And now I'll entertain a motion.
All right, I move that we, is this recommend to the city council? I move that we recommend to the city council for approval of this zone change with the development enhancement overlay.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. Next item of business is the Title 15 amendment.
Is it? Oh, there it is. So what we are proposing as staff, engineering staff, is to include in our Title 15 code reimbursement percentages for master plan utility upsizing. So going from an 8-inch water line to say if they were going to upsize it to like a 10 or a 12, there's a percentage increase, and this is what we would typically reimburse developers over time with our impact fees as we collect them. So this is something we currently do, and we actually have online. We call it the developer toolbox, and this is what these are the percentages we use every time we get like a impact fee reimbursement submittal or something through us, and we start going through with the developers. But we want to put it in code, one, just to make it easier for them to find. Our toolbox that we use is something it's like a spreadsheet that you can get in, download, and then you kind of do your own calculations. However, a lot of people just look directly for the code to see what those percentages are. So we're proposing to put them in the code. That way they're there, and they're easier to find, and then people know when they're doing their takeoffs and everything for development, they can plan on these percentages. So any questions about
Are you
them?
changing any percentages or any of the reimbursement
We're not,
amounts?
from what we've done. These are what we've done the past 4 years. We do check them every time we do our impact fees. We'll look at material and installation cost of our standard required utility, and then what an upsize cost changes. And if those percentages change, then we would bring it back to change it in the code too. But right now, these are our current percentages that we're seeing. So.
Any questions?
Questions?
Seems great. Thanks for all the support.
Yeah.
So we need to also have a motion on this. I guess we have to have a public hearing. Thank you. Is there anybody here from the public that wants to talk about this item? Seeing none, we'll close public hearing. Any other comments from commissioners? Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve recommend for approval the Title 15 amendments reimbursable projects.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. The next item is amendment to modify land use regulations.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. It was a little over a year ago that we as staff proposed to add another overlay zone. Would be intended to be implemented much like the development enhancement overlay that we talked about earlier tonight, but to serve a very different purpose. And indeed, the City Council approved the creation of the large utility facility overlay. This was intended to create a mechanism and a process through which Spanish Fork City would review large utility projects, such as maybe the construction of a water line that's maybe similar to what the Central Utah Project built on the east end of town a few years ago. It might be something like a new canal, a big power line. Conceivably, it could be a large natural gas line, different things like that that are really intended to not primarily serve Spanish Fork City residents, but rather to be regional in nature and maybe just be cutting through the community. I'm a believer in the concept. However, we've been educated as staff since last summer that Spanish Fork City's ability to influence the development of some of the projects like what I just described is very limited, to where we as staff believe that having something like this on the books not only is probably inherently misleading, but also would lead us to going through processes that probably would do more harm than good. So, for example, with this being an overlay zone, Mr. Nielsen and I were just talking about what that means. That's a legislative then tool that ultimately the City Council could only approve after you hold a public hearing like the one that you just sort of did, right? You opened it up at least, and that's a necessary part of the process. The City Council likewise would have to hold a public hearing. Those public hearings are held after we send notices to what potentially would be a lot of different people on the Maple Mountain Plat End zone change tonight. I think we mailed out 70-something letters last week to people saying, hey, come. And in that case, it was for the City Council hearing that we anticipate that they'll have next week on it. On Tuesday, July 15, come to the City Council meeting. If you have any thoughts or comments about this proposal, that's the time to come and to share your thoughts during a public hearing. So the prospect of us reviewing a large utility project that ultimately the City Council may not be able to say no to, may not be able to influence any changes to, and inviting potentially hundreds of people to come to your meeting to tell you what you think about a project that likewise you really don't have much ability to influence. Probably, in fact, I absolutely would say that I've seen situations where cities kind of, and without malintent, end up doing more harm than good by giving people the sense that if we come to a meeting and share our thoughts, it's going to matter, when indeed it likely doesn't. I hope that makes sense, because that really is a big part of why we're proposing to have this removed from Title 15 now. I think it's the most genuine way to deal with some of the things that are coming down the pipe in Spanish Fork, and that likely will in the future as well. So again, maybe just to try to put a fine point on that, staff's recommending that this overlay be removed from Title 15 because frankly, we don't believe that it can serve the purpose that we thought it would a year ago.
So with that being said, what is the best way for the public to, I believe the public needs to be able to express their opinions on projects like that that are going to have a big impact on our city. If we're powerless to stop a regional or state-driven utility that's coming through, what's the best way for them to voice those frustrations or concerns?
It's to reach out to the entity that is doing the project, whoever that might be, and in some cases, state regulatory boards, and to share their thoughts with them. So there are commissions and boards that oversee large utility providers in the state, and that's an avenue that I think is very appropriate and potentially helpful to share thoughts via.
Are they under obligation to provide public notices, those boards and bodies?
Good question.
I guess I'm just wondering how the public would know that something like that would be coming.
There are requirements, as I understand it, to go through certain public processes. By way of conducting a formal public hearing or something like that, I don't believe that's the case. And I'll just pull the curtain all the way back here. So we're talking today about a really, really large power line project.
Coming through the south
And I'm going to
side of-
express some frustration.
Going through the south side of town.
Yeah,
Yeah.
from one
I was
end to the
thinking.
other. I don't mean to attack the folks that are working on the project. They're working with the rules that they have to work with. And I think they're probably very proficient at doing that. In this case, we're talking about a facility that literally will go from one edge of Spanish Fork to the other. It'll go in and out of Spanish Fork, through Utah County, back into Spanish Fork, et cetera, and then it will continue on, or it does continue in each direction from Spanish Fork for dozens and dozens of miles. By way of getting the word out on that project, the group that's in charge of getting the necessary boxes checked held a handful of open houses in different communities in our part of the world. One was held at the fairgrounds here in Spanish Fork, I think last summer. At that point in time, they had not selected an alignment for the route. They were still talking about multiple routes, but they did. They held a meeting there. I believe they had information that was shared in the meeting that was relevant and likely helpful for anyone that was there. I believe their attendance at that meeting was 31 people. And people, both Utah County residents and Spanish Fork residents, and I think Salem residents were all invited to go to that meeting. I was aware of the meeting because some folks from our power department knew about it, and they were invited and they attended. I share that to illustrate that box was checked by advertising that meeting in such a way that you had 31 people attend.
Before they know the route of the line, so they don't
Or
know,
the
they've
route.
not disclosed the impact it'll have on a community,
Finalized.
they check the box.
And the route, as I understand it, was identified as one of multiple routes that they were considering at that point in time. And I'm just sharing this by way of trying to share the facts, not again to tear anything down, but I think it's really hard to get the word out on something like this, we found, and I think it's probably once in a generation kind of a situation too. But just the attendance alone at something that I think when construction starts, there are going to be a lot more than 31 Spanish Fork City residents that.
And so as it stands today, if this wasn't changed, then we would have a meeting, the public would come, but really we have no power to change,
Yeah.
alter, stop.
Exactly. And I'll add a little bit more color to that as I understand it. By way of advertising. So we send notices to all property owners within 300 feet of a proposed zone change like this would be. So that conceivably is a lot of both, well, and it's kind of interesting. We've debated a little bit as to exactly how we would satisfy that notice requirement. I think in this case, I don't know, we might add Utah County residents to the list of people that we notice, but in any event, we would be sending hundreds of letters to property owners saying that this is happening and this is when the hearings would be held, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that likely would generate a response. Anyway, that is the essence of the concern. Incidentally, we have some experience with doing that up until maybe 15 years or so. Spanish Fork City, and it was very common in other communities. I sat on the Planning Commission in Provo for a time, and Provo City, their system was set up to invite people to come to meetings to express their thoughts on projects that ultimately we as commissioners were obligated to approve because they met requirements. We couldn't influence their change or anything like that. And I've been on a dais looking at people that felt like we weren't doing our jobs by listening to them, and yet the reality was applicant had satisfied everything. So I do feel like that is a broken environment that is not helpful. And that being said, I also understand that a municipality or a county, a local jurisdiction, can work with an entity like Rocky Mountain Power to influence change of alignment maybe on a power line, or maybe what the power poles look like, or different things like that. But I understand the law is clearly written then that we are obligated to pay for those changes. And it does not take long to break Spanish Fork City's budget when you're talking about some of those kinds of changes. So we're very leery of getting into a situation where we're probably not just talking about millions, but potentially tens of millions of dollars of impact. And it likely would be the same way with other things besides just a big power line project. So it's been educational for us. I hope that's helpful. The City Council, incidentally, last week hosted representatives of Rocky Mountain Power who described the project, what they did by way of public engagement. Our council's very concerned about that project and the impact that it's going to have on the community. And they've gone to some effort to educate themselves about what they can and can't do. That's, I think, frustrating and disappointing. It's the kind of thing you wouldn't necessarily wish on a neighbor, but I sure wish the alignment was going someplace else. It will frustrate some plans that we've been working on for a really long time here.
So Dave, if we take this out, which if we don't have any authority to affect any changes, it's irrelevant for it to be in there, I feel. But what and if in this example, the utility company has already checked the box of a public meeting, how is the community going to find out about it?
In this particular case, there's a web page.
They would have to go find a web
It's
page on
operated
their
by
self.
the utility. I have not seen that advertised in any particular way. Am I missing something? I mean, if I am, anybody else that maybe has seen that? But that's the direction we're given, is if people have questions, send them here to learn more about the project. And beyond that, I just say I think people largely are on their own. Other than, and I think Spanish Fork City is making an effort to at least inform people as to what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think whatever we can do to inform the public on it, at least to give them a chance to, they need to express their views on it. If they need to, they at least need to be informed if they feel they need to express their views on it, and educate them on what avenue to take those questions or concerns to. And if it's not to us or to the staff or to the council, at least get them pointed in the right direction. Because it'd be very frustrating to me if I lived there, which I live in the community, but if I lived where also I have a transmission line, not just a power pole, but a transmission line going near my house.
Right.
And I'm told, well, you should have went and looked at our website.
Yes.
That would not be very pleasant.
Yeah, it's more like a public service, right? Like we, Spanish Fork City, we care about our citizens, and even if we don't have power or we don't have control over another entity, we can be proactive to let citizens know what's happening, and that if they have any feedback, that they can go to this website and speak with this entity.
And
But
I
I
think
can see how taking away this, like removing this Title 15, takes what seems like something that is our responsibility that's really not our responsibility, right? Putting it on the shoulders of someone else, but still having the opportunity to be a public service entity.
Yeah, I'm of two minds of this. I like the intent that we had here, and I understand what you're saying, where we could do more damage than good. We have, and I assume other cities have, kind of a well-oiled machine in terms of how we interact with our constituents, the people in our community. And these sort of special government districts don't necessarily have that. A lot of their boards are appointed and everything like that. So it's, as a citizen, I could be very confused on how to interact with that. That's frustrating. The other thing is, I understand not giving anyone false hope that there's anything that we could do to stop this. That said, I think discussion is a good thing, whatever form it happens in. So that's my two split brain on this. So
Yeah, I see it the exact same way. I really do. And I think we're really sensitive as to, I'll just speak for myself, but I know more than just me has sat through public hearings, and we've heard from residents that have questioned the effort that we've put into as the city to inform people about what's going on in the community and in their neighborhood and things like that. And if for better or worse, we get those complaints even after we send letters to everybody. We put signs on property, and we expend some effort to try to get the word out, and still people are concerned. So I expect that on scale with this. When construction does start, that in spite maybe of what more we can do, to just at least maybe help people prep for.
Know how
Yeah.
far off the construction is of the.
They want to start by the end of 2026, I believe, is what they're looking. So they're moving now from what I would call a planning stage into a land acquisition stage. I think they're primarily looking to purchase easements. But they're going to be moving pretty quick. I think they want to have the line operational by 2030. Before we end, I can, or maybe somebody else can help dig up the website, and we can share that. It has more accurate information than what I have at the top of my head, but it's coming pretty quickly.
We use that as an example, but this applies to all large utilities. That could be
Exactly.
coming through here.
Yep.
Any other questions for Dave before we?
So
open this up to the
basically,
public
this
hearing?
rule is just looks nice. It's not really anything. The city's hands are tied regardless with the rule or not, because the other entities are coming through and they've got veto power.
That's certainly a good way to put it. Another way that I've looked at it is I think we, and this is one where we as staff, I mean, we let out. So I think whatever fault there is of having aimed for something and missed the mark, that's on us. We tried to inject the city in a process that doesn't have room for city influence. And again, did it with good intentions, but we've learned, so.
We'll open up public hearing. Anybody here have anything to say on the public hearing?
just say one thing.
Please do. You've been here a while, so you might as well make a
I'm
comment.
just here to visit. I'm Brady Redfern. I was just thinking, as y'all have been discussing, that maybe the community newsletter, for instance, is an opportunity to share something like this. I know that you have to be a little political with that kind of an announcement, but that is something that goes out to the city. And of course, there's the social channels as well. So maybe there's some avenues like that where the messages could be crafted appropriately so that you're not angering a utility company, but you could still draw attention to that happening.
Thank you. Do those things we don't ever post any notices in the newsletter, but would something like this be applicable for the Spanish Fork social media, or to go to this website, just say, hey, there's going to be something impacting our community, go to this website and check it out?
Absolutely. I think among other things, those tools are primarily for that purpose, right?
Yeah.
Sharing information. So noted. Instead of I'll talk to our public information person about that in the morning and
Great.
go from there.
Okay. So again, just on this amendment, as it's modifying the land use regulation for the large utility projects, not just for a power line, but for all utility projects. Is there any more comments from the commissioners? If not, I'd like to hear a motion on the subject.
I will say that I appreciate the city trying to watch out for us, because when this starts, this is going to get ugly, I think. And so I appreciate them trying, but I also understand it is what it is. There's nothing we can do about it. So it costs a lot of money if you wanted to try, and then you would lose. So
yeah, and the current route that it's taking not only will impact us now, but will impact development in the future.
100%.
So.
I'll make a comment. This is really frustrating. I think that there's all sorts of government. I think the best government is local. I like city government because we can talk to our neighbors who actually run the place. And this really frustrates me. I'll just leave it at that. I can add to that. I live where real close to where this possibly could go through, and man, is it going to be ugly. But
Okay. We have a motion on the topic.
I'll make a motion that we accept the proposal to change this Title 15. How should I word that?
Is this a recommend to the city council?
Yeah. And then
Make a recommendation to city council with the change.
recommendation to the city council to change Title 15 municipal code.
second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay. So the motion passes 5-1. We'll go to the council with that. They'll know that. Do you want to state your reason for that?
Yeah, I think it's back to the comment I said before. I realize this is done in the best interest of the city. I think that we do not want to get ourselves in a financial entanglement, and I understand we can make those decisions based on how much things would cost. But that said, I really would like to see the city kind of assert more power here in whatever way they can.
Okay, thank you. Just that way, when their staff's related to the city, they can relay your comments too. Or if they're watching, which they're probably not, they can see that. Our next topic, or our next point, is to adjourn. Do you have anything you want to go over with us before we adjourn?
2 items that they may be quick.
Sure.
Hopefully this is the quicker of the two. In August, some of us as staff have a schedule conflict on the first Wednesday. We'd like to talk about, incidentally, if we were to maybe make the same adjustment as what was made this month, that would have the Planning Commission meeting being on the 12th of August. I think that works well for us. That is the night of the primary election. I don't believe that inherently that's a problem. We could also meet, so that would be the second Tuesday in August. We'd be available also Wednesday. I know Commissioner Warnick.
I could do the 12th, but not the 13th. Yeah, school board meeting.
The 12th works better for me, so that'd be good.
Is that?
12 is good.
I'm seeing a lot of head nodding.
I do, yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. We'll just double check to make sure there's not something that I'm currently unaware of about the primary. and a conflict there. If that's not an issue, we'll plan on the 12th, and we'll let everybody know soon about that. The second thing is a little bit.
Oh, I have a request. I'm wondering if perhaps we can get calendar invites for this meeting and the work sessions, since sometimes we
Such a good idea.
change, what time we're starting, and it'd be great.
I think we have the technology that we can do that, right?
Of
Somehow.
course.
We can make. I can't believe that didn't come up sooner.
Thank you.
Casey's the wizard. She can do it.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, certainly.
Yes, thanks.
A little bit of carryover from the last meeting. John Mendenhall, it's been a few months since he left. We need a new co-chairman. So that being said, it's really up to you as the commission to decide how you want to select a co-chairman. You're not obligated to do it tonight necessarily, but certainly it's helpful to have somebody that's ready in the wings. If for some reason Chairman Mitchell's not available, so.
Is
take
that a
as food for
co-chair or
thought.
vice chair? Is it?
I can't
what's
recall
the-
I can look it up real quick. You know what?
I think it's been vice chair.
Co-chair.
I think it's vice chair.
Yeah, not co-chair. Thank you.
What have you?
Sometimes we've
So I
done it
think
by
we-
way of nominations.
Yeah, and people can think about it too, right? We could put it off till August and give people time to think about it. Or do you want to have some decisions tonight?
It's entirely up to you. Yeah, it's really
I mean,
a matter of
if you
how
guys
you
want to
wanna
make some
operate.
nominations, and what we've done in the past is made some nominations and just voted on it. And it's usually it's not been too painful, but if you want to think about it for a while and do it the next meeting, that's fine too.
Okay with thinking about it and doing the next meeting, but if I were to make a nomination,
If you're going to go make one now, you might as well just go with
I
it.
may as well just go with it. I would nominate Shauna.
Second.
I think her experience is excellent, and she covered well in your absence.
The only thing I'd ask to that, Sean, is your schedule allowing that? I mean, you're on another board that's a lot of time.
I am, but I also don't have a full-time job. I'm kind of a professional volunteer.
Okay, good.
I would have the time.
Good. I have a motion and a second on that. I guess as far as voting, what does everybody think about that?
Aye. Good.
Aye.
I think it's unanimous. There you go.
You're
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm deeply honored.
Hey, appreciate your time. Appreciate you guys working with us on switching the meeting date this month as well. That's it for us.
Good.
So we now need to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. I've never had that be opposed, ever.
I'm going to do it one time just for fun.
I'll slap you if you do.
Want to talk about trees or something, right?